she was the most politically compliant person they could find. I don't know what she knew, but I know the story she told was misleading.
This whole process is going to be checked out. We are going to find out who made changes in the original statement. Until we do, I really think it's unwarranted to make accusations.
As the Benghazi investigation continues, so are the arguments over who's to blame and over whether Ambassador Susan Rice should be caught in this crossfire. Joining me now is Senator Johnny Isakson, a member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, which is investigating the Benghazi attack. Senator, thank you very much for joining us today. You've been following this very closely, I know. Tell us, what is your reaction to something that Mike Rogers, the House Intelligence Chair, said or suggested on Meet the Press? He said he has no evidence of this, and no evidence has been brought to bear about this, but he suggested that that questions should be asked about when the president first learned, for instance, about the Petraeus affair, whether it's credible that he did not know until after the election. Do you have any information about that?
No, I don't. I would only be guessing if I tried to answer the question, but the more important question is who knew what when with regard to Benghazi, with regard to whether or not it was a terrorist attack, and with regard to the fact that for the first time since 1979, America lost an ambassador in harm's way. That's something we need answers for.
Well, it seems very clear that there were plenty of warnings, that the intelligence community repeatedly told Washington that there was trouble in Benghazi, that it was not secure, that the Libyans could not secure it, that there had been, in fact, 5 separate attacks. So didn't Washington have fair warning that it needed to do something about the security there?
It had fair warning. In fact, the Brits had already pulled their consulate out of Benghazi. We'd had 7 or 8 bomb attacks going back as far as June. It was obvious a danger, and we found out when the diary was recovered from Chris Stevens that was found, it said that he thought he was al-Qaeda's #1 target. There were lots of warnings, and we should have had better security, and we should have had a better warning in terms of the specific event that took place at the consulate.
The White House says that there was no change made in the intelligence assessment other than to change one word, technically, to change it from consulate to diplomatic mission, to be accurate, because it was not a full consulate. So do you believe the White House when it says that there was no political interference in the intelligence assessment and or the guidelines from which Susan Rice was working when she went on television that Sunday?
I've heard enough testimony, both classified as well as other, to believe that we knew early on in the attack that it was terrorist related and could have been al-Qaeda related. We didn't have the military personnel close enough to engage to protect our ambassador. I think that's pretty much a known fact now, or it's been stated by a number of different people in testimony. And if that's the case, we need to answer the questions why, and what are we going to do to see to it in the future that America doesn't lose a diplomat because we weren't prepared to protect him in the first place.
Are you more concerned about that than the aftermath, than how it was reported and how she presented it, given that she was working off of the guidelines she'd been given?
Well, I think Susan Rice was reading on those Sunday shows, those 5 shows. I think she was reading what she was told to read. I've been around Washington to know long enough. When you represent the administration, they give you the talking points and you repeat the talking points. So I think that's what happened to Susan Rice. I need to know, and we need to know, and America needs to know, and Chris Stevens' family needs to know when we knew it was a terrorist attack, why we weren't prepared for it, and why that ambassador lost his life.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you very much for joining us today. And joining me now is California Congresswoman Barbara Lee, who is a member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Congresswoman, there's been a lot of attacks against Susan Rice, who seems to be the messenger delivering a message. Do you think that she should be held to account for what the intelligence community decided to make public?
First of all, Ambassador Rice would be derelict in her duty had she not brought forward the information which the intelligence community had provided. This has evolved, and of course, we have a tragic situation where 4 of our diplomats were tragically killed, and we have to get to the bottom of it. I think what's also so offensive and wrong is that we are attacking this ambassador for doing her job, and we need to make sure that we stop the politicizing of this and get the facts, and that needs to be done. This has to stop right away, and I think that once the facts are put forward, then we will know how to proceed to make sure that a tragedy such as this does not happen again. Also, let me just say, with regard to Ambassador Rice, she's Dr. Rice. She's a Rhodes Scholar. She graduated and got her PhD from Oxford University. She's been in key positions with the National Security Council. I've known her for many years. She's a brilliant woman. She has engaged in negotiations, tough negotiations, on behalf of the United States. When you look at what she has done with regard to enhanced sanctions against North Korea and Iran, she's done an amazing job as ambassador, so there's no reason to question her intelligence, her experience, and her credibility. She has done a great job and continues to look out in terms of for the United States' best interests, in terms of our national security interests.
Well, Dianne Feinstein referred to what's going on as character assassination. Why do you think that she's gotten herself caught in this? Why do you think that some of the Republicans on the Hill are blaming her for what happened in Benghazi or for the way it was presented? Why are they accusing her of a cover-up?
I don't think, Andrea, that she's gotten herself caught in anything. As I said, she has done her job, and she is doing her job. There's some terrible
I guess what I'm trying to ask is why do you think they're going after her?
Well, she first of all was confirmed in 2009 when she was brought forward as our United Nations representative. So I have no idea. Of course, she's a strong, brilliant woman. She's a person who put forth on the talk shows the information that the intelligence community had provided to her. And so I think we need to ask Senator McCain and those who are attacking her why they're doing this. I think it's politically motivated, and I think that they really are being very wrong in their attacks, and they need to stop it because she is looking out for and has acted on behalf of the United States' best interest.
Barbara Lee, thank you, Congresswoman. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
And up next, the fiscal cliffhanger.